Canada followed the same trajectory, often resting below the American GDP per capita by only about a few $1,000s. As a result, while the overall aggregate output of the United States is much larger than that of Canada, if we account for the differences in population, the two economies appear to produce almost equal output per person.
Now we turn our attention to the comparison between unemployment and inflation rates. We notice from the graphs that during the times of economic recession, such as the 0809 crash, the United States unemployment rate seems to be significantly higher than the Canadian unemployment rate. However, during times of more economic stability, we notice that the Canadian unemployment rate is consistently higher than the United States. Looking at the graph comparing inflation rates between the United States and Canada, we notice that both graphs are extremely similar. While both inflation rates seem to shift by varying amounts, they generally move in the same direction, demonstrating the high correlation between the inflation rates of Canada and the United States.
In order to fully understand how investment spending is calculated, one must dissect the components of its formula. I equals I naught minus IR multiplied by R. R is classified as the real interest rate, or an interest rate that has already been adjusted for inflation. IR represents how much investment spending changes when the real interest rate is disturbed. Because IR is the slope of the line above, the greater the absolute value of it, the more dramatic a change investment spending levels will experience from one R value to the next. Finally, our I naught translates to the baseline level of investment set forth by the aggregate of businesses. What initiates change within I naught and IR? Changes to expected rates of return, such as an anticipated increase in revenue or decrease in costs, would catalyze a growth in I naught as businesses would be willing to invest more out of the gate in hopes of seeing a greater return on their investment. Uncertainty, or how confident the aggregate of businesses are in their expected rates of return, can influence investment spending's interest sensitivity. High uncertainty, or less confidence, would translate into a decrease in IR, as one would infer that businesses would be operating on such a wide range of possible rates of return that little movement of interest rates would barely have any impact on their positions.
One way we could tweak the aggregate demand function of Canada would be to add another variable to track FDI, or foreign direct investments. This is because FDI accounts for a majority of the I variable of aggregate demand, and adding this variable will allow us to get a better understanding of Canada using its aggregate demand function.